Noise is easy, discipline is rare. There's something deeply seductive about talking a big game. You've felt it, we all have. That rush of dopamine when we tell someone our plans, our dreams, our grand intentions. It feels like a win, like progress, but it isn't. It's just noise. Noise is easy, noise is cheap. Discipline? That's something else entirely. Discipline is heavy. Doesn't give instant gratification. It doesn't clap for you in the early mornings or celebrate you while you struggle in the dark. But discipline is what builds empires. It's what creates freedom. It's the only way forward for someone who truly wants to change their life. You see, we live in a world where performance often comes second to perception, where many are more interested in looking successful than becoming successful. And here's the trap. They confuse movement with achievement. They confuse attention with progress. And the truth is, we're rewarded more for a good show than a good foundation. But if you chase applause before mastery, you'll crumble when the music stops. It's easy to stand on a stage or post a quote or make a big declaration on social media about how you're going to take over the world. You can say, "This is my year," 1,000 times. You can talk about grinding and hustling and waking up at 5 a.m. But unless you're actually doing the work, consistently, quietly, day in and day out, you're not building anything real. You're just performing, and performance might impress for a moment, but it never sustains. That's why discipline matters. Discipline is the decision to wake up early when no one is watching. Discipline is saying no to the short-term high so you can earn the long-term reward. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even when motivation has left the room. It's not flashy, it's not loud, it's rarely noticed at first. But over time it builds the kind of life that no speech can buy, no likes can fabricate, and no one can take from you. I've seen countless people make big promises with their mouths and small deposits with their efforts. They speak like giants and act like children. And it breaks my heart, because I know how badly they want to change. I know they mean it when they say they're ready. But change doesn't come from declarations. It comes from discipline. That quiet, uncomfortable, persistent grind that most will never see. The truth is, the best work is usually done in the shadows, where nobody claps, where nobody cares, where it's just you, your future, and the decision to do the hard thing again today. And that's the great separator. That's the fork in the road where average people fall off and committed people rise. The ones who make noise often fade when things get quiet, but the ones who build their character in silence, they're the ones who last. They're the ones who don't just succeed, they sustain. Because they didn't just build results, they built habits. They didn't just talk about being disciplined, they became disciplined. I want you to really think about this. How much time do you spend telling people what you're going to do? How often do you look for validation before you've earned the right to be noticed? The people who truly change their lives don't have time to broadcast every move. They're too busy moving. They're too busy failing and learning and adapting. They're too busy sharpening their skills, strengthening their mindset, and paying the price in private. Let everyone else talk about working hard. Let everyone else decorate their lives with buzzwords and empty promises. You build in silence. You commit to the grind. You train yourself to love the quiet, because that's where real transformation begins. Don't worry about who's watching. Don't worry about whether anyone sees the effort, because when you become someone of discipline, you won't need to chase respect, it will find you. When you master the quiet work, your life will make the loudest statement of all. There's an old truth that keeps proving itself over and over again in life. The people who make the most noise are often the ones doing the least work. The ones always announcing their next big move, constantly reminding the world that success is just around the corner. They usually don't make it around that corner, because they're too busy trying to impress people to actually improve themselves. The loudest room is often the emptiest. It's filled with declarations, exaggerations, and distractions, but very little substance, very little discipline, very little sacrifice. The noise is a cover-up, a mask, a performance, and deep down people know it. You know it. You've walked into those rooms before. whether it's a workplace, a social circle, or even your own mind. You've seen the people who boast, who brag, who scream about ambition, yet have no scars, no sweat, no results to show for it. You see, people make noise when they don't have enough quiet strength to do the real work. They shout about their dreams because they're afraid of what silence might reveal, the gaps, the weaknesses, the insecurities. Silence forces you to face yourself. And that's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Because real progress, the kind that lasts, is born in silence. It's born in rooms where no one claps, where no one's watching, where it's just you and your work ethic. Think about a tree growing underground. Before it breaks the surface, it spends years sending roots deep into the earth. You don't see anything. It looks like nothing is happening, but everything is happening. That tree is getting strong where it counts. It's preparing for storms before the storms ever come. But the world doesn't clap for roots. The world doesn't celebrate unseen effort. It waits for the bloom, the fruit, the branches reaching toward the sky. And the same is true for you. You have to be willing to grow in silence. You have to be okay with the world not noticing you for a while, maybe for a long while. Because if all you care about is being seen, you'll build a life that's wide but not deep. You build a reputation without a foundation, and when the pressure comes, and it always comes, you'll fall apart. Not because you weren't capable, but because you weren't prepared. Now, I'm not saying you can't speak your goals or share your dreams. That's fine. But don't let the talking become a substitute for the doing. Don't let the attention become more important than the achievement. Because once you start chasing noise, you lose your hunger. You start performing instead of producing. You build a stage instead of a legacy. It's tempting to talk big. It's easy to surround yourself with people who applaud your intentions but never challenge your execution. But real builders don't need an audience. They don't waste energy trying to be seen. They focus on becoming undeniable. And when you're undeniable, you don't have to chase the spotlight finds you. So the next time you're tempted to broadcast your plans, ask yourself, why? Are you looking for support, or are you looking for validation? Because there's a difference. One fuels you, the other distracts you. Learn to separate them. Learn to protect your energy. Learn to love the silence, because that's where your real power is waiting. Let your actions speak so loud they can't ignore you. There is a point in life where you stop wanting to be heard and start needing to be respected. And that doesn't happen through talk. That doesn't come from shouting your plans, announcing your efforts, or begging for attention. It comes when your actions get so loud, so undeniable, that the world has no choice but to take notice. Real influence doesn't ask to be seen. It earns the right to be remembered. When you consistently show up and put in the work, when you do it not once or twice, but every single day, your life starts to reflect that effort. Your results begin to speak in a language everyone understands. Results don't lie. You don't have to explain yourself when your actions are doing the talking. You don't have to argue about your value when your output proves it again and again. Think about the people you respect most. They're not the loudest. They're not the ones constantly updating the world about their every move. They're the ones who walk into a room and you feel their presence, not because of what they said, but because of what they've done. Their track record speaks louder than any introduction ever could. They've built something real. And that kind of reputation can only come from work, not work. The problem is we live in a time where people confuse visibility with value. They think if they're seen, they're succeeding. But the truth is, being seen isn't the same as being effective. A spotlight doesn't make you great. Greatness is what happens when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when it's just you, your discipline, and the grind. That's where real power is built. When you commit to letting your actions speak, everything changes. Your focus sharpens. You stop wasting time trying to convince people who don't matter. You stop looking for shortcuts or applause. You become dangerous in the best way. Because now your energy is going into building, not broadcasting. And here's the powerful part. People start to notice. Maybe not right away, maybe not loudly, but slowly, surely they start to see what you've been building in the dark. And when the time comes, they won't be able to deny it, because results are louder than any speech. And it's not just about proving others wrong, it's about proving yourself right. It's about becoming someone who knows their worth, not because of outside validation, but because of the consistency in their character. When you know you're doing the work, when you know you're honoring your commitments, there's a quiet confidence that grows inside you, a confidence that no rejection, no criticism, no doubt can shake. That's what real success feels like. Not noise, not hype, but inner strength. Let your actions be your defense. Let your discipline be your explanation. Let your consistency be your identity. You don't have to rush to be seen. You don't have to argue for your dreams. Just keep showing up. Keep building. Keep growing. Because the day will come, maybe sooner than you think, when the results of your silent work become too powerful to ignore. And when that day comes, you won't have to say a word. The world will speak for you. Silence protects your focus. There's something sacred about silence when you're building something meaningful. It's not just about being quiet, it's about being clear. It's about creating a space where you can think, reflect, and work without the constant noise of other people's opinions, expectations, and distractions pulling you in every direction. Because when you share your plans too early, too often, or too loudly, you don't just lose your focus, you leak your energy. And in a world full of noise, protecting your focus is not just smart, it's survival. You see, silence is a shield. It guards the most fragile part of your journey, the beginning. The time when your dream is still forming, still growing roots, still gathering strength. That's when you're most vulnerable to doubt. Not just your own, but the doubt of others, the people who don't see your vision, the ones who can't understand why you're working so hard when nothing visible has changed yet. If you let their words in too early, you risk diluting your purpose. You risk questioning your path. That's why silence matters. It keeps the noise out while you get strong enough to withstand it. When you keep your goals to yourself, something powerful happens. You start working for you, not for attention, not for approval, not for recognition. And that's when your motives purify. That's when you stop performing and start progressing. Your focus sharpens because you're no longer juggling the pressure of being seen while also trying to build. You stop worrying about how your efforts look and start pouring everything into how your efforts feel. And when your work comes from that place, authentic, focused, undistracted, it becomes unstoppable. We've been trained to think that sharing equals commitment, that saying our goals out loud makes us more likely to follow through. But that only works when you already have the discipline to back it up. If you haven't built that muscle yet, all it does is create extra pressure. Now, instead of focusing on your process, you're focused on your performance. You're more concerned with appearing consistent than actually being consistent. And eventually you burn out, not from the work, but from the weight of the spotlight you put on yourself. Silence gives you the room to make mistakes without fear. It lets you fail privately, adjust quickly, and try again without anyone keeping score. It gives you the mental freedom to grow without judgment. Because, let's face it, growth is messy. The early stages are full of confusion, setbacks, and lessons. And if you're trying to grow under a microscope, you'll start hiding your flaws instead of fixing them. You'll play it safe instead of playing it smart. But in silence, you're free to experiment. You're free to fall and rise again without the world watching. That's how you get better. Quietly, gradually, powerfully. And here's the beautiful irony. The more you protect your focus in silence, the more impactful your results will be when they finally emerge. The world won't remember what you said in the beginning. They'll remember what you did when it mattered. They won't remember your early declarations, they'll remember your final results. And those results will speak with a volume no words can match. So if you've got a dream, protect it. If you've got a goal, nurture it, let it grow in peace. Don't let every setback turn into a conversation, and don't let every intention become a broadcast. Stay quiet, stay focused, and build until the silence is so productive it becomes the loudest thing about you. Growth isn't glamorous, it's gritty, it's painful, it's often ugly, and most of all, it's personal. Real growth doesn't happen under lights in front of an audience or with applause echoing in the background. It happens in the shadows, in silence, where there's no one cheering, no one validating, and no one checking in to see how you're doing. And that's exactly why it's so powerful. Because when you grow in private, you grow for the right reasons. Not to impress, not to compete, but to become. You're not focused on appearances, you're focused on outcomes. You're not comparing your progress to someone else's highlight reel. You're competing only with the version of yourself from yesterday. And that's where the magic begins. Private growth is honest. It's raw. You can't lie to yourself when no one's watching. You see the truth of your own work ethic. You confront your laziness, your excuses, your patterns. And when it's just you and the mirror, there's no hiding. That's why some people avoid silence, because it reveals what they've been running from. But if you're brave enough to stay in it, if you're bold enough to let it break you down, that same silence will rebuild you. Stronger, clearer, better. In private, your lessons hit deeper. Your wins feel different. You remember what it took to get there. You remember the lonely mornings, the nights you almost gave up, the sacrifices no one saw. You carry those moments like armor. Because when you've earned something in private, it can't be taken from you in public. It's yours, it's rooted, it's real. And here's what most people miss. Growth is rarely about giant leaps. It's about small, invisible steps taken consistently over time. Reading one page when you don't feel like it. Getting up early when no one will know. Choosing to keep going after failure, when quitting would be easier. Those moments don't trend. They don't make headlines, but they change you. They develop the quiet strength that will carry you through storms later on. Private growth also gives you space to evolve without fear. You can try, fail, and recalibrate without judgment. You can shift directions. You can ask dumb questions. You can admit what you don't know. And in that freedom, you become something real, something grounded, something no trend or opinion can shake. That's what happens when growth isn't performed, it's pursued. But our culture rushes everything. We want instant transformation. We want progress to be visible, validated, and shared. And in that rush, we skip the depth. We chase the look of growth rather than the substance of it. But just like a tree with shallow roots, when the wind comes, we fall. Because we never gave ourselves the space to grow in silence. So give yourself that space. Give yourself permission to develop without needing to prove anything to anyone. You don't need a post about every workout. You don't need to announce every change. You don't need to perform your process. What you need is honesty, grit, and patience. Because the person you become in private is the person you'll rely on when life gets hard. Don't underestimate the value of those quiet seasons. They may not look like much to the world, but they're everything. That's where the foundation is built. That's where habits are formed. That's where your character is shaped, not for show, but for survival. Because when the storm comes, and it will, it's not what people think of you that matters. It's who you've become in the dark that will determine whether you stand or fall. Success is built when no one is watching. We live in a world obsessed with visibility. Everybody wants to be seen, to be noticed, to be celebrated. And there's nothing wrong with recognition, but the truth is, that's not where success is born. The foundation of everything great is laid in the quiet hours, behind the scenes, in the places no one sees and no one claps for. Real success is built when no one is watching, because when nobody's watching, That's when your character is revealed. That's when your discipline gets tested. That's when your reasons for starting either grow stronger or disappear. It's easy to be motivated when people are looking. It's easy to show up when you're expected to. But the difference between winners and talkers, between builders and dreamers, is what they do when the crowd is gone and the lights are off. That's where the real work lives. You don't become great by showing people how hard you work. You become great by actually doing the work. The early mornings, the late nights, the study when you'd rather sleep, the practice when no one's watching, the sacrifice when there's no reward in sight. That's where your future is being written. That's where the seed of your breakthrough is being watered, not in the moment of glory, but in the moments of silence, obscurity, and unrecognized effort. Think about the athletes you admire, the entrepreneurs you look up to, the creators whose talent inspires you. You see the highlight reel, but you don't see the hours. You see the final product, but not the 100 versions that failed before it. You see the applause, but not the days they spent alone, pushing through doubt, fatigue, and rejection. They didn't build their greatness on a stage. They built it in the shadows, through repetition, through focus, through relentless consistency. And that's the test for all of us. Can you keep going when no one notices? Can you push yourself without praise? Can you hold yourself to a higher standard when no one else is around to hold you accountable? Because if the answer is yes, then you're on the path to something real, something lasting, something no amount of attention can replace. But most people, they could not get it. They didn't emplace it, not concerned, not clear on it in the moment. They couldn't measure it, incite it, and track it. Not because they realized they couldn't, but because they weren't looking in the noise. So if you're in that season right now, working quietly, grinding without recognition, pushing through without applause, don't resent it, respect it. Because it means you're exactly where greatness is born. You're not being overlooked. You're being prepared. You're not behind. You're underground, developing roots so strong that when you rise, you won't fall. This season is sacred. This quiet grind matters more than you know, because what you're building when no one's watching is who you'll become when everyone's looking. And if you get that part right, if you master the silence, there won't be a spotlight bright enough to define you. You'll walk into the room, and your presence will say what your mouth never needs to. You showed up, you did the work, and now your results speak for themselves. Let the results do the talking. There's a kind of quiet power that comes from letting your results speak for you. It's not boastful. It doesn't need to announce its presence. It simply walks in, delivers proof, and leaves no room for doubt. That kind of power doesn't come from talking about your plans. It doesn't come from hyping yourself up to the world. It comes from putting your head down, doing the work, and letting time reveal what effort built in silence. People talk about confidence like it's something you either have or you don't, but real confidence, the kind that can't be shaken, comes from competence. It comes from repetition, from knowing that you've done the work, from stacking up so many hours of effort behind the scenes that when the moment finally comes, you don't have to prove yourself with words. You just are. You're ready, not because you said you were, but because you showed up every single day when it was easier not to. And here's the truth most people avoid. If you need to convince everyone you're doing something great, you're probably not as committed to the work as you think. Because when you're truly locked in, when you're really chasing mastery, you don't have time for that. You're too busy learning, refining, growing. You're too focused on getting better to worry about getting noticed. You understand that the only conversation that matters is between you and the outcome you're chasing. Letting your results do the talking doesn't mean being invisible. It means being intentional. It means putting energy into things that actually move you forward instead of chasing the validation that makes you feel temporarily good but changes nothing long term. It means understanding that reputation is built, not branded, and that people may not notice your grind right away, but they can't ignore your results forever. Results are undeniable. They cut through opinions, silence critics, and shatter assumptions. When people see your transformation, when they witness what you've built, when they're confronted with the evidence of your discipline, there's no debate. They may not have believed in you before, but the results make it impossible to deny you now. That's the power of keeping your head down and staying committed when nobody's looking. Because one day everyone will look, and when they do, what they see will say more than 1,000 explanations ever could. And the best part? The process changes you. It's not just about proving others wrong, it's about proving yourself right. It's about becoming someone you're proud of. Someone who can say, I didn't give up when it got hard. I didn't need applause to keep going. I didn't wait for permission to become who I knew I could be. That kind of self-respect can't be faked. It's earned, and it's worth more than any amount of likes, comments, or public praise. So work quietly, sacrifice privately, push forward without the need to announce every step. Let your transformation be your declaration. Let your improvement be your message. Let the life you build in the shadows rise to the surface and speak for itself. Because in the end, it's not your words that will define you, it's what you do when the talking stops, when the spotlight fades, and when it's just you, your effort, and the results you've earned. Let them watch in silence, let them wonder, let them ask how you did it, and when they do, smile not because you need to say anything, but because your results already did. So what does it mean to work hard in silence? It means you stop chasing validation and start chasing growth. It means you stop performing and start producing. It means you make a quiet commitment to excellence, not because someone is watching, but because you are. Enlist. It means you let go of the need to be seen in the early stages and instead choose to be prepared for when your moment arrives. This world will always reward noise in the short term. The loudest voices, the flashiest updates, the boldest claims, they get attention. But attention is not transformation. And noise is not progress. You have to decide what you're here for, applause or legacy. Because real mastery doesn't demand a stage, it earns it. Real growth doesn't post updates, it lives the process. Real winners don't spend their energy convincing others, they channel every ounce of it into becoming undeniable. You don't need to announce every move. You don't need to broadcast every win. The people who make the most impact are the ones who stayed focused when no one clapped, stayed loyal to their craft when no one believed, and stayed grounded in purpose when distractions pulled at them from every direction. And here's the thing, your time will come. Your work will speak. Your discipline will show. Your name will rise. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it in the dark, while others were still talking. So let them underestimate you. Let them forget your name. Let them count you out. It's better that way. Because while they're watching the noise, you're becoming the storm. And when you arrive, when your results walk into the room ahead of you, no one will need an explanation. They'll know. You didn't get there by luck. You didn't get there by accident. You got there by doing what most won't. You worked hard. You stayed silent. And you let your life do the talking. Now go, build quietly, grow privately, and let your silence become the loudest thing they'll ever hear.